12 of 13. The Grizzlies appear ready to start to rebuild, and we'll go back to Woj here in a second. Memphis is now, according to him, listening to offers for its two biggest stars, Marc Gasol and Mike Conley. Gasol has a little over $25 million left, a player option left next season, and Conley can still make $67 million of the last 2 years of that deal. This one's interesting, Woj. What happens next for Memphis?
Well, it will be interesting to see what the market looks like for both players, and that's what Memphis wanted to do between now and the trade deadline. With Marc Gasol, he can opt out of his contract at the end of this season. He's owed over $25 million next year if he wanted to opt in. So if you're going to trade for Marc Gasol, you want to know, number one, where his head is on opting in or out of the contract, and then if you want to re-sign him, which you'd likely do if you're going to give up some assets to trade for him, you're going to have to want a sense of what it's going to cost to do that. With Mike Conley, he's a younger player, 31 years old, but he'll essentially be guaranteed $67 million through 2021. And I think there's teams who are going to be willing to take that contract on and take on Mike Conley. But what's Memphis going to be able to get back in return? You know, they want what every team wants when they're trading, veteran star players. They want draft picks. They want good young players. They want salary cap relief. Well, they may have to hope just to get one of those three, and teams may say, hey, we're taking out all of Conley's money. We're not looking to give you back much of value. That's what Memphis has to find out between now and the trade deadline, because they can just hold on to both of them and keep going forward for the rest of the season. They don't have to trade them.
Woj, thank you. As always, stay warm out there on the East Coast. Paul, I'll start with you. Let's just play, where should they go? What's the best possible destination for Conley first?
Right now, a guy like Conley who's getting up there in age, got a big deal. You got to look at a team like Detroit. I mean, Reggie Jackson, he's been solid, but Mike Conley gives them a little more stability at the point guard. And for Mark, I think Brooklyn will be a good destination for him.
Wow.
I mean, they're a team on the rise. They may make the playoffs this year. They add another veteran center that has experience. So, I mean, that may be a good look for both of them.
I can't read your face, Dan.
No, I think those are both. It's really hard to tell because Woj has got it right. I mean, the money's what's really going to play into this, what they can get it back. I'd like to see Mike Conley go home to Indianapolis and play for the Pacers. Put him besides Victor Oladipo in that backcourt. And I think now they're the most overlooked team in the East anyway. They're third. They're ahead of Philly and Boston, but we talk about those teams as contenders. Add Mike Conley to Indiana, I think they'd be great. And I'd love to see Marc Gasol in Charlotte. I don't know how they do that, but I'd like them to see him to get Kimba some help there to be able to keep him around. They don't have much on their front line, particularly offensively. I'd like to see him.
That was some Eastern Conference love from both of you guys. That was very nice.
It's a little easier to win in the East.
That's fair. Our doubleheader starts out in the city of brotherly love, and we love having our pal Izzy Gutierrez on, who's reporting for us tonight from Philly. Izzy, how you doing?
Good, Michelle, and hello, Stan and Paul as well. I'm going to start off with who's definitely not playing tonight, and that's Jimmy Butler, who's going to miss his second game with a wrist injury. Brett Brown says he doesn't think it's a long-term situation, but he will miss him tonight in a couple of areas. First, late-game situations where Jimmy Butler can create and make his own shot, and also in defense against DeMar DeRozan. Now, DeMar has been struggling in January, but he's had 5 straight 20-point games against the Sixers, so Jimmy Butler would help there. Joel Embiid is still a game-time decision. He's going to go through his pregame warm-ups and everything like the same way he has the last few games, and he'll make this decision after that. Brett Brown, however, thinks he will play. Ben Simmons, who's been dealing with an upper respiratory issue, will play as well. Brett Brown said he is not 100% at all. You can see in his face that he hasn't slept much and looks weak, but he will play. And they'll probably give a little bit more responsibility to J.J. Redick and maybe some pick and rolls with him and Joel Embiid to take some of the pressure off of Ben. Michelle?
Izzy, thank you so much. I like it. Embiid keeping things mysterious. Will he, won't he? There he is. He made things not cool for Russ on Saturday, swatted the life out of James Harden on Monday. Will he play tonight against the Spurs? We have yet to see, but I guess we'll find out soon. And we're just a day away from learning who will start the All-Star game. But first, our experts here, they'll pick the best of the West and the East next.
Like this.
Here comes James Harden. Step back three. Good! James Harden, a flamethrower! Are you kidding me?
Get dunked on.
The three ball quickly. Got it! And one! By George! Paul on the job!
Curry way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a
shot from Curry.
Giannis
Throws it down by Leonard with a vicious slam. There's Durant flying to the rim, and he stuffs it through. Kyrie, a bomb. Oh! Straight fire!
Welcome back to NBA Countdown, presented by Mountain Dew Ice.
So tomorrow night, the All-Star starters will be announced. We just really don't want to wait for that. So we have Paul and Stan, who are going to tell us what they think and who should kick things off in Charlotte on February 17th. I'll start with you, Paul, and we'll start with the East. Who you got?
Starting with the East, at the point guard, I have Kyrie Irving.
Okay.
2 guard, I have Victor Oladipo.
Ooh.
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Kawhi Leonard. And Joel Embiid. Those should be your starters in the Eastern
Those
Conference.
should be your starters.
Those should be your starters right there.
Okay, I can already tell you I feel as though the Oladipo spot will be something that people will have maybe differences with. Stan?
Yeah, I have the same guys Paul has, except I got Kemba Walker in there instead of Oladipo. I also thought about Brad Beal and Ben Simmons, but I went with Kemba there.
What made you pick Kemba?
Because I don't think anybody outside of James Harden is carrying his team individually more than Kemba is. I mean, Kemba's second best player in Charlotte right now is Jeremy Lamb. He gets almost nothing from anybody up front. He's averaging 25 a game. He's the highest scoring guard in the Eastern Conference. I think he deserves to be in there.
And is the Oladipo argument teams better? They're winning more?
Yeah, they're winning more. And, I think he's the best 2 guard in the whole Eastern Conference. He carries a big load for Indiana. Numbers aren't like popping out at you like the rest of these guys, of course, but, look where Indiana is in the standings. I mean, they're 3rd. They have a great team, and I just think he's done a terrific job in expanding his game.
Well, I thank you guys for playing. The correct answer was, in fact, Ben Simmons, but we'll see if you guys did better.
Well, Ben Simmons doesn't mean as much to his team as Victor Oladipo.
I know, but it's not an MVP award. It's an All-Star award.
Exactly. That's why
I don't feel like that was a
Oladipo is
winning
more
argument.
exciting. How about that? He's a better dunker.
Stan, I can't. I'm like,
Okay, I don't know if that's the
We
argument
want
either.
dunks in the All-Star game.
We do
you'll
want to be
get plenty
entertained.
of 'em.
Yes, you are right there. Let's go West. I want to see if you guys have any differences on the West. And Stan, you go first.
Yeah, this one to me was pretty easy.
Fair enough.
This
It really was.
really
Curry,
easy.
Harden, Durant, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. The only thing that gave me pause was Paul George.
Thank you. What?
Should he be in there
Yes.
over LeBron, who's had an injury because of the injury? That was a tough one. What I'd really like to do is put Paul in the East
I mean-
and have him start in the backcourt for the East. Then I think you'd get the 10 best players.
So okay. Paul, do you have the exact same thing?
I have the exact same list, and I agree with Coach.
You?
I do. I have Curry, Harden, Durant, LeBron, and Davis. I'm torn with Paul George because he is having a spectacular year, but how do you keep LeBron, Durant? I mean, it's just hard to move any of these guys around.
So
That's how great the Western Conference and the league is this year. I mean,
I agree.
we are having some great individual performances. I mean, in any other year, Paul George could be MVP.
No question.
I mean, he could be a first team, all NBA player. But the league is so deep, especially at this position, the forward, Durant, LeBron, Giannis, Kawhi. I don't know who's the best forward in the league anymore.
So-
It's like,
I had totally different. Can I tell you what I had, and then you tell me if I'm wrong or why I'm wrong?
you're wrong.
Shut up. I had Curry, Harden, and I had LeBron. And LeBron was a tricky one because of the injury, and I get all that. I actually had Jokic, and I have Paul George because I do think he's having a career year, and it's been, as you said, we want to be entertained. It's the All-Star game. That dude is clutch, and he's been nothing but
who
fun
are you
to watch.
talking about?
Paul
Who's
George.
Yeah,
So
he's
talking
clutch.
about Jokic. Why am I wrong? Why not have him instead of AD?
I mean, he puts up a good argument, absolutely, because he's been phenomenal this year. He just, like Chauncey said it earlier this year, he doesn't pass the eye test like a guy like Anthony Davis. I mean, but he's a spectacular
He
player.
doesn't pass your eye test.
I mean, I'm just saying, though, when you watch Anthony Davis come flying in the sky, dunking, blocking shots, doing all these spectacular things, Jokic just goes about his business with the Paul Pierce slow pump fake and bounce pass and high IQ plays.
Oh, no.
There you go. I
Okay,
like that.
that's- yeah.
But you can make a case. I mean, your cases for those guys are good. And I think it goes to what Paul was talking about, the depth in the Western Conference. I mean, these guys are all really good. Jokic certainly would deserve to start. Paul George deserves to start.
Yes.
But we can only send 5 out there.
I will say this. It felt like legitimate homework doing that. It wasn't as easy as just marking everybody off. There was a real thinking. To leave Durant off of something like this feels almost sacrilegious. It felt really weird.
I feel like, it shouldn't be, since we get to pick teams, the captains get to pick teams.
Right.
You should be able to pick from a pool of just whoever makes All-Star. So, like, it doesn't have to be West. It's like too much West and East, but we don't go to that.
I agree with you on that.
Anymore. It's not East and West on the jersey. So it's like, a Western Conference player could pick an Eastern Conference player.
You need to go change it.
That's what we need to change. That'll make it more fun.
Yeah, if we're going to play that way, then I don't think it has to
not
be 12
East and West
from each
no more.
conference.
It should just be a certain amount each time.
I think the 12 best players or the 24 best players, no matter conference, should make it.
That would be interesting.
Yes.
See just how lopsided it would end up being.
Yes.
But I don't hate it. One guy who everyone agreed on was James Harden, and he will be on our air Friday night. Historic 30-point scoring streak at 20 games entering tonight. And he's taking his team against, no, he's not, Kawhi and the Raptors. That's coverage begins with NBA Countdown at 7, also on the app. As always, and we saw him earlier. Looks like he's going to play. He was listed as questionable earlier, but is he reporting that things seem to be okay? So we can count him for wagers, Paul.
All right.
We are well familiar with Philly's notorious process. And the Warriors built a dynasty on distance shooting, but there's a team down in Texas that keeps reinventing relevance. How does Coach Pop do it?
The Knicks host the Rockets tonight, which means it's a good time to remind you about some of these moments, the best in MSG history. 28th of March, 1995, in his 5th game after coming out of retirement, Michael Jordan dropped 55 at Madison Square Garden. He had 20 points in the first quarter, and then he assisted to Bill Wennington with a game-winning dunk. February 2nd, 2009, Kobe scored 61, 19 for 31 from the field, 20 for 20 from the line, one of his 6 60-point games in his career. 2 days after that, LeBron James had 52, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds in a win over the Knicks. It was the second straight year he had a game with 50 points and 10 assists at the Garden. And then a little bit later, February the 27th, 2013, Steph Curry scored a career-high 54 points, including 11 threes, the most ever in a game at Madison Square Garden. It was the first 50-point game of Curry's career. For more on what Harden could do tonight, back to Greeny in New York.
All right, Nicole, thank you. Jalen's here. So let me ask you this. I mean, here, Madison Square Garden, the Mecca, the world's most famous arena, but the Knicks have been so bad for so long. And this season, clearly, as you would say, they're not trying for Zion. Do players still get excited to come in here and play on the road?
I see how it just pains you to say that.
Yes, it does.
As somebody that lives so close to MSG, but yet so far away from watching a contending team play.
Correct.
So it's not necessarily about the Knicks. It's about the stage. And MSG presents that. New York City magnifies that for all of the players when they come here. The knowledge that the fans have, the history of that great team, of this great city. So it's better when they are good. Like, fortunately for me, when I was in the league, I got a chance to play against the Knicks when they were really good and had some of their best players in the franchise's history. So it does stink that they're not as good when the best players come to town to put on a show, but definitely players still want to put on the show when they come play here.
Yeah, next year when they have Zion and KD, everything will be much better. Quickly, James Harden putting up all these ridiculous numbers without CP3, without Capella, but is there a concern that he wears himself out over the course of a long season?
Not at all. You never get tired of playing offense. You never get tired of shooting the ball. Guess where he rests? On defense. He does not play it in any way, shape, or form. He uses all of his energy offensively.
We are just minutes away from getting started with Jalen and Maria and D. Wood and Dominique Foxworth, a whole lot more. Get up, top of the hour.